YouTube channel. I was really enjoying that, and I still really enjoy the idea of going back to that. But because rather than doing the solo freelancer thing, now I'm doing the let's bootstrap a business and build a team thing.
Yep.
It has cannibalized my entire existence.
It's been a lot. And for those who are viewing, this is Luke interviewing Peter, by the way.
This is the first episode of the Bundy Business Brains podcast, and I thought there's nobody better than Peter to have on episode number 1. You were the first person I actually met in the business world when I came to Bundaberg.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that would have been at the Christian Business Network.
Nope,
No,
no.
before
that, I moved to Bundaberg, and I looked on LinkedIn, and I just searched Bundaberg and see who lived here.
Yep.
What sort of businesses were around.
And we're on LinkedIn. That's 3 people.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a fair while ago.
Yeah, it was, man. And so I saw you, and I think I connected with you, and you responded to me, and we were like, oh, let's go and have coffee. And so we caught up, and you were. It was great. It was a great experience, by the way. Just sitting down, you opened up with, okay, tell me all the things that you can do, and I'll tell you where you need to be. And I was like, okay, sure.
I was talking to Ali and said, I'm going to go visit Luke. She says, why do I have this memory of Luke? I said, well, remember when we visited a client down in Harvey Bay, and it was a mutual client.
Yes,
and
right.
this is when you were, and one of the things I love is the creativity side that you have. And they sent me this card, and I opened it up, and there were sprinkles and stars. Everything fell out of the car all over the place. And I thought, and I just cracked up and laughed and rang up the customer. I said, what's going on? He said, oh, yeah, Luke did that. This is what he's doing, is a marketing campaign. Ali's still peeved with you because she's still picking up stars now, 10 years later.
Who was that?
Yeah.
No. Who was the...
The builders.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
I can't remember their name, but they're in my database. Everyone's in my database.
Essentially residential. Colin J. Clark.
Yeah, that's them.
So that's really funny because I never told them to do that. I gave them an example. So I was in the office with them, and this is a tangent and a half. But I had just done this a marketing course that I had come across, and it was the benefits of lumpy mail. I don't know. Have you heard the expression lumpy mail?
No, but it makes sense with what you sent me. Yeah,
exactly. So the idea is send something that can't easily be put in a box or in a category or through a slot. So someone has to actually deal with it, and then you have their attention.
Yeah.
And that's how I got them.
Yeah.
So I put this sounds so ridiculous. I wrote my sales letter.
Yep.
I took a video of their website and did a voiceover of what I thought could be improved.
Okay.
Put it on a USB drive, sticky taped it to the bottom of the letter. Crumpled it up. I bought off Alibaba. I bought a bunch of little wheelie bins that are this size. Crunched up the letter, stuffed it in there, and the letter to the effect of was, if you're spending money on advertising without having a good website, you're throwing your money away, right?
Yep.
It was stuffed into this bin.
Good.
Put it in mail, and you send it signature on delivery, so they actually have to sign for it.
So, because we're being truthful here.
Yep.
Did they even know how to use a USB stick? Because I remember this couple. Yeah, don't you hate it? They've got a great plan, and but they still call you.
She called me.
What's this thing?
She called me kind of grumpy, actually. And she's like, "What are you saying? Our things is rubbish.
Couple.
What is this?" And I said, "I think you might have misunderstood. This is for." And I explained that I'm a web designer.
That's another sales strategy.
That's
Upset them,
confuse them. And
first word you say, "Sorry, that's not what I meant." But what I've got you.
Yeah. Well, she's like, "I don't do things over the phone. You need to come and visit." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So we went.
And that's how it goes.
And that's how it goes.
And look, I mean, when we talk about business, the big thing that I do different to everybody else is the amount of cold calling I do. I knock on every door. I go to every networking event. Because especially now the phone books are gone, you got nowhere to find all these people.
I got the phone book the other day. It's over there. It's like
the old days. Yeah. But and that's like you said, that mail out, and I've secured a client at Christmas. I just sent out a card wishing you Merry Christmas. No, you don't know who I am, but thinking of you anyway. Here's my business card. I rang back, $7.5 million worth of property. Oh, can you help me? Yeah, okay. I've always been so busy, I haven't had a chance to talk to people. Oh, no worries.
Yeah, let me help you.
You want to tell me cold calling doesn't work? Yeah. Cost me what, $20 in letters and cards and a bit of handwritten note.
But the thing is, the real thing is that people aren't willing to do it, and as in to make it different, to be that little bit creative. Because if you just send, like, I don't know how many emails you get per week, oh, let me, do SEO for your website or whatever it is. But I get so many and they're all the same. They're all white noise. You don't look at any of them.
Yep.
But the minute that you do something that's different, you can.
Yeah. And Bundaberg being a regional area, it's about conversations.
Yeah.
So that's good. All right. So the topic of this is Bundaberg Business Brains.
Yeah, that's the working title that I have with this.
That's great. And I love it because you're definitely in the business brains category with creativity. And one of the things that I find a challenge in Bundaberg is we're so egalitarian as an Australian society. Everyone has to be the same and everyone has to be equal or mates.
Yep.
And I understand that, but in reality, that's not how it works.
Not everyone has the same skills. Not everyone has the same experience.
Not even that. Yeah. Sorry, I'm taller than most people. It's a reality. Get over it. I get dizzy when I do my shoelaces up. It's not a plus. It's not a minus. It just is. Yep. I'm older than a lot of people. Sorry, I can't change that.
Do you find that helps or hinders?
Age or height?
Yeah, age.
I'm a tall old guy. Yeah. Well, height actually is an advantage. You'd be surprised how many people look for strength and power and imagine height. And I'm sorry, I look damn good in a suit. Yeah. not that I wear it, but when I was in Brisbane and Melbourne and the likes of that, when I walk in a room and 6 foot plus, you can always tell the conversation stop. Whoa, who's this? Whoa, must be a leader.
You carry presence.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So I run through there. So what's your question?
Okay.
Age. Look, I go on the philosophy that you can very easily work with people 10 years older than you and 10 years younger than you. If you are working in a market that is outside that 20-year parameter, then you're probably better off getting another staff member in who's in that category. Now, for me, my clients, the one first timers into commercial property, probably in their 30s to 40s, or they're retiring in their 70s. So the age that I am, which will be a secret.
Yes, let people do the math based on the stories, right?
Is in between 40 and 80, okay?
Yeah. I see.
But runs through there. Yeah. Is it a disadvantage? No, as long as I've had a lot of life working in service and working with staff and working with people. And one of my managers came up to me one day and says, one of the staff isn't getting on with you, which was new to me. I thought, oh, is that so? Yeah, and she's quite young. The problem that she has is she almost felt like she was being put down when I come up with answers because I have, unfortunately, a wealth of knowledge behind me. So that is probably the disadvantage for us from an older point of view, because we have to recognise not to put it over younger people who may not have that experience. And it could be older people who don't have experience either, but with wisdom comes experience. But likewise, encourage the young ones, because quite often they don't even know that they don't know. But the strength of enthusiasm and motivation and creativity, they haven't become cynical because they've been beaten up for 40 years from executives all around the world.
Yeah, that's true.
You get that. It's hard.
Genuine.
It's hard to wake up in the morning feeling great. But so it's like everything. I love the saying from Myron Golden: "There's no such thing as a one-sided piece of paper."
Isn't Myron great?
Yes, I love that stuff he
really
comes
good.
up with.
Yeah.
And that's it. Is age, is wisdom, is youth, is height. Are they advantages or disadvantages? It depends on the situation.
How you leverage them.
It's like leadership style. And people say, oh, we need an authoritarian type leader, or a democratic one, or a coaching one, or a consultative one. Yeah, for that situation.
It depends.
So short answer is no. And look, I'm not precious. If you need to delete that 15 minutes off from
that was fun.
The editing flow. Yeah, Peter, is that a disadvantage? No. Okay, and we just save 5 minutes worth of talk time.
Well, in that scenario, we just jumped around all of those things. You alluded to a bunch of things in your experience, so maybe just so people can get a bit of a sweeping glance at Peter Bender, like if you had to break your life up, let's say professionally, into chapters, what have the chapters of your life been?
Okay. All right. So the first chapter was when I got out of school. All my mates went to uni. I said, I'm sorry, I spent, 13 years getting out of school. Why is it they say you leave at year 12, but they forget kindergarten? I had 13 years at school, so when it finished, I wasn't volunteering to go back to uni. I didn't go back to uni too much later.
Yep.
So I went out and I moved from Sydney's western suburbs, and I went up to Gold Coast at that stage.
Where were you in the western suburbs?
Penrith. Parramatta, all those lovely areas.
Right, I was born in Blacktown.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was all around you.
Yeah, all right. There you go.
Went with Val Greystones, the whole kit and caboodle. Yep. And so when I came up here, so my first job was in regards to trade skills, which is really weird. I was hanging up curtains.
Okay.
Now, those who know me realise that I don't know one end of a screwdriver from another one. I got to drive the truck. I had my P's like a week. I rode his truck off twice. Destroyed unknown amount of tools, and it became quickly evident to me that manual dexterity is not my skill set. Now, I could spend the rest of my life trying to get up to a reasonable level, or I could say this ain't it for me.
Right.
So when I got the opportunity to change jobs, the boss was all for me. He said, Peter, you should go pursue other avenues.
Love the encouragement.
Yeah, you're costing me a fortune. Get out of here.
Yep, that's right. Go right off someone else's truck.
So the next chapter was I spent over a decade in Telstra. I spent over a decade in the Australian Taxation Office. I spent over, I won't give you ages, but I spent a fair time in...
Okay, that's 3 decades so far.
Yeah. I'm slow down here, Peter. Yeah. I spent a significant time in Austar, which was part of the Foxtel sort of environment. And the careers that I had in there, it was from admin to sales to leadership to training to quality assurance. They talk about resumes that are a portfolio resume. Well, mine was like that. If I ever had to go for another job, and I don't intend to, but if
not going to happen, right?
I'm going to rip out like pages of the stuff. But yeah, and it was in that chapter of my life when I realised that leadership is what I really wanted. That was my passion, and communication and sales was sort of like my skill set. So I worked from there, and during that phase, I've bit embarrassing, but I've actually run like 16 businesses. Some never got off paper, some were bought and were big failures, some were sold, some were amalgamated, some were demalgamated, the whole gamut across all range of industries. So I always had like a job and what they call it, a hustle now.
Yeah, side hustle, right? Yeah.
Side hustle, yeah, no. Well, back in those days, it was like I'm running a business that's just not paying me enough.
Yeah.
And these were how we got the harder skill sets, and that's when I went back to uni as well. In that time, part time, it's hard. It took me 6.5 years to get through uni. No, I'm not a slow learner. I just couldn't do a lot of subjects at once.
Well, you're running businesses and doing all kinds of stuff as well, right?
So I did a Bachelor of Business degree there, and then a couple of years after that, I'm not a big fan of doing a degree and then doing a master's. You need to experience life and then come back and add value to the master's. So when I went back later and did my master's, and got published, did a research project, all that sort of weird, freaky stuff. But
it's a different world, hey.
Yeah, and going to the business brains of Bundaberg, this is my story. This is my journey. It's not better than anybody else's, but going back to that egalitarian society, having brains is frowned upon in Australia.
Yeah, in a lot of places, it sure is.
It's sad, but it's should we frown upon the guy who can fix my car because I can't? Heck no. I love Wayne Devlin. You're awesome, mate. Free plug. Cut that out if you need to.
Wayne, you can pay us for the next one. The first one's on us. So.
But like Wayne just laughs at me. I came into his workshop one day with this noise. I couldn't work out what it is, and he says, "Yeah, I can see what your problem is, Peter." So you haven't even looked at it. He says, "No, your back tire's flat." Oh, but the steering's fine. That's because you steer with the front tyres, Peter.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm telling you, I got no dexterity or brains when it comes to mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
But, we need to recognise that, some people, unfortunately, in life are just going to be smarter in some things, but there's all sorts of intelligence. There's arithmetic intelligence, there's communication intelligence, there's emotional intelligence, there's creative intelligence. There's the ability to look at complex situations and make simple solutions out of them. There's all sorts, and intelligent people don't have all of them. The most brilliant IQ person in the world lives in a shed in a barn in Ohio and just writes abusive notes to the senior people at Harvard saying, why won't you publish my material?
Mm-hmm.
He's got the highest IQ in the world, but he is just, you don't get on with this guy.
Yeah.
He is not a people person.
Yep.
You know,
And so that limits that ability, right?
does. But, you know, he is the smartest guy in the world, and you just got to work along those lines. And, you know, I think, you know, we have no honour. I say the prophet has no honour in their hometown.
Yes.
You know, and I see it when I did recruitment. You know, I'd say, oh, yeah, I can get that person for you. Oh, no. We need someone from down south. I said, why? I know wonderful accountants, wonderful lawyers. You know, these people. No. There's no one good in Bundaberg. And this was like, sorry, this is one of our international companies that I'm talking about here.
Yeah, right.
All right, we won't say who, but it starts to limit that.
I was going to say, there's not a lot of them. So.
Yeah. And there's another adamant, I had to get someone from down south. Well, you know, long story short, we got them local.
Yep.
Because they just happened to move up 6 months before. You know, that's how we qualified it as outside. You know?
Yep.
Oh,
they're from down there.
Yeah, they're not really a Bundaberg person. You know, they haven't been dumbed down like everybody else in Bundaberg, you know.
Yeah.
Or the other one I get is, you know, you can't have a contractor in Bundaberg doing big building projects, you know, or you can't have a local doing this job because it's too complex. We need someone from down south. And in my industry, in commercial real estate, I remember one of my peers they had the client, and the client said, no, I want to get someone from Brisbane. We said, but we can sell this for you. You know, it's not difficult. No, adamant had to get someone from Brisbane. So they paid a fortune, way more than what they should. You know, got the agency in Brisbane, sold the property to a local. We laugh for a week. Yeah. But that's it. You know, we need to grow up as a town. Yeah, and we need to recognise that we have tremendous skill sets, not just business brains, but you know, we got some of the great athletes. You know, Felice Kafusi is a classic Australian prop. You know, if you're in the rugby league, you know, we've got basketballers, hockey players, cyclists. You know, sport is a field that's amazing. We talked about Matt Grills. Holy smoke! How far does that guy run?
He came here, like I interviewed him.
He's a world beater.
He is. I interviewed him on another podcast, actually, at this very table, and we were chatting, and he's like, yeah. Anyway, he said, I'm gonna have to go soon because I need to get some sleep because, and I think he said 2 days from now. He said, I'm going for a run. I'm gonna run from here to Noosa, and I'm gonna planning to start an ultra marathon from Noosa.
Yeah.
So he ran from here to Noosa to
warm up. Yeah.
Oh, it's just like
but that's what I mean. I mean, we've got such amazing people here.
Yes.
And the sooner that we grow a little bit, and it's starting to, as more and more people from down south come up here, it's changing the culture.
I feel like that's happened really rapidly over the last few years. Do you see that? Like just the general feel of the town, how Bundaberg perceives itself seems to be changing rather rapidly right now.
I mean, we've always had the world beaters, you know, Bundaberg sugar, Bundaberg rum, Bundaberg ginger beer, you know, Bundaberg commercial, you know.
The list goes on.
3 out of 4's not bad. You know, edit that out if you need to. But and now we've got, you know, new ones coming through, and in whole different industries. You know, Auswide Bank is now a national bank. You know, it's tremendous, and we've got 80,000 people here. Yeah, there's 3.5 million in southeast Queensland. We've got some of the best manufacturers in Queensland. Yeah, and we've got the strategic advantage from a business point of view because we're close to the mines.
True.
Yeah, so it's very hard for the Brisbane and Southern guys to compete with us because they got to pay transport.
Yeah, that's true. So
sorry guys, you're just in the wrong part of town.
It's true. It is true. So in your view, because I think you have a very different view of Bundaberg compared to most people because you interact with so many different businesses. What would you say as you look, into the next, handful of years? What are the things that excite you the most in Bundaberg, in the region, from a business or commercial perspective?
Well, one of the things that I try not to get into is crystal ball stuff. But what I do instead is I look at the patterns and try to get ahead of the curve on the patterns. And one of the big patterns that I have in the business brokerage side of what I have, and also the commercial real estate, is the next generation is changing over. You know, they're probably 10 years late. COVID just destroyed the superannuation and retirement plans of a whole generation of people. So instead of retiring at 65, they're now 75 and they're retiring. And it's the 40-year-olds that are coming in. So I'm very excited by new ideas coming through, by new energy coming through. There's a lot of businesses that are good businesses, but could be great businesses, except the 75-year-old owners are tired. Yeah, they've been doing it for 30, 40 years. Yeah, so that is I think is great and exciting. Yeah, we talk about the NBN, and I had an NBN day yesterday. No bloody network. Oh, I'm not allowed to say that on this.
That's all right.
Family channel.
It's the first episode, so we don't know what we are yet. It's fine. So.
I mean, that has opened up so many doors. For people like me. I work from home.
Yep.
Yeah, and people say, how do you run a commercial real estate agent from home? Well, my customers don't bring their products to me.
Yep.
And I'm a relational person. I go and visit the clients.
Yep.
And I want to walk around that shop. You know, I might know what the machines are. I'm getting better at them. But I got my PPE stuff. You know, I know how to keep safe from them.
Yeah.
And we walk around, and clients love it because, hey, you
right?
understand what it is and what we do. And I said, well, you know, have you thought about, you know, this CNC machine here, or that edge bander there, or that hoist over there? I actually know what's happening. Yeah. And that's one of the advantages of having worked with so many businesses.
Yeah.
So trends, I think that generational shift is really starting to come. What worries me, I think, without getting poo-pooed for categorizing people, there are certain cultures that have always been a cash purchase culture. Okay, so you've got the Jewish religion, so it's not even a geographic, you've got the Asians and you've got the Indians. One of the things that I see is changing and is dramatic is particularly in the Indians, they're now going debt.
Okay.
Now, this is a culture that's not used to debt. We've seen rises and falls and collapses, and I've seen the GFC, the Asian crisis meltdown, Black Friday, Black Wednesday, Black Monday, every other day it was black, which happened to be when I had my shares there. You know?
Yeah, of course.
And what worries me, and one of the things I was thinking is people are now getting much more leveraged, and I don't think they actually know what that means because a whole almost 15 years now, we haven't had interest rate hikes. They're talking about how high interest rate is now. When you look over a 50-year period, it's average. You know, without saying old, when we got our first house, interest rate was 17%. You try and have a job and buy a house, and people say, "Oh no, that'll never happen again." Crypto will never crash again either.
Yeah, of course.
So the fact that people are leveraging is another pattern I see. Is that good or not? Look, if they're wise and they get their money quickly and they pay off that debt and use that debt for income-producing assets, then good. Yeah, if they start buying cars and that lovely Ford Everest and whatever else they want to buy, then it's a train wreck coming. So debt is another one. I think what is interesting in the 30 to 40-year-olds in particularly is their way of looking at business and work is different. And a lot of them are very much passive income is, I'm going to throw up next time someone, says, I want something with passive income. There's no such thing as passive. You still got to work on it. You still got to, at minimum, find a way to get the money to buy the business that's going to give you that passive income. And I just see a lot of people losing years looking for that dream of passive income to run with. I mean, passive income, we used to call it shares and bonds. Well, not even shares, but stocks and bonds or ventures and the likes of that. It's always been around. It's just we called it something different.
The objective has changed, right? Like it's become it's a different language now.
It's a different language, and it's a different motivation because we did passive income. Listen to me say, "We, gosh almighty." Originally, in previous times, I heard that you'd have shares and you'd have property for passive income. I mean, a lot of the property owners in Bundaberg are owned by families who have had them for decades. Decades and decades. So passive income is not new. But they've worked hard to build up a debt-free portfolio to run with it. And, they've always been building their businesses, working on their properties and running it. The culture now is people want to maybe still have their job, but maybe downscale to 2.5 days a week and have a passive income, which is fine. But you need to recognize you need to put time in that passive income. Passive income is almost a fancy word for laziness.
Yeah.
Serious.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. They don't want to put effort into it.
I think you hit the nail on the head before. You said it's a change. It's a shift in motivation.
Nah, mate, I'd have missed it and I would have hit my thumb with a hammer.
That's true. It's a manual task. I should have thought this. So, but I think what you really nailed right there is that people are not wanting passive income because they're trying to do greater good. They want passive income because they want to sit on the beach with a ukulele, right? And that's a really fundamentally different thing. Like I don't know about you. The more I listen to you, by the way, today, the more I can hear like notes of my own motivations coming out of your mouth. So like I think you'll resonate with this. How are you when you actually try to have a holiday, like as in a long-term holiday? Like, do you get the bends and it's sort of like, or do you switch off and it's like, oh, this is great?
I love holidays because they're usually an information source for me. And I love going internationally. Asia, America, been in the States like 4 times. So to me, it's not an issue. And I can turn off like that. The challenge that I'm having being a solopreneur is, well, my clients don't respect me when I have a holiday. They don't even respect my weekends or night times half the time. They know I don't ring unless, they know I'm not going to answer. So they usually text me. So it starts off, sorry to bother you on the weekend, but. And then they come out and like, no, that's a Monday. That's Monday. No, not happening. 9 times out of 10, I'm playing chess anyway. So the last thing I want to do is stop that. I'm trying to think here.
Don't break that thought process.
That thought process. But holidays, I've always been a believer that you need at least 2 weeks off. Because it takes you that long to break it out. So my holidays tend to be 4-6 weeks. Sort of stuff.
Yeah, I guess to rephrase my question, like if you,
in other words, I missed it.
Genuine.
Try it again for the slow guy next to you.
We'll get it. If you were to like literally be, retired per se and not have anything to do, how long would you be feeling fulfilled and happy with your life?
Oh, and that's a really good question, and that's a discussion I have with a lot of my clients who are selling their businesses or their property for retirement. I said, what are you going to do afterwards? I used to work in the tax office, I mentioned, and they have an internal bulletin, which every week was, this person's retiring, that person's retiring, that person's retiring. It's always the same, going to travel and visit the grandkids. And I always say, what are you going to do in the second week? For me, if I retired tomorrow, perhaps this is a better way to look at it, I would go full time into chess. That is my passion. That is what I always want to do. And you think I'm bad at manual dexterity, I'm worse at chess. It's one of those things. The skill set does not match the motivation. But there's a chess circuit around Queensland. They play in. So next month is actually Bundaberg has a big tournament.
Nice.
And there's one this weekend down on the Gold Coast. So I'll be a junkie and take my wife along with me. And then I'd also go to Europe and play chess over there because that's where
that's where the real players are.
Yeah. In Europe, chess is like football is in Australia. And it doesn't matter if it's soccer league, Union Aussie rules. Let's just call it football. They have professional teams. They're sponsored. The players get paid millions of bucks.
It's crazy.
It's just they don't wear a jersey. Most of them wear a suit because that's just their uniform. And that's a whole different line. One of my friends just came back from Germany. And there's a small city called Baden-Baden. They had a tournament there, 3,000 players. It was across 2 venues. I just want to go there to see what that looks like. I've been to Australia's biggest tournaments. I've actually played in 4 Australian chess opens. And there's like 200, 300 people there. Imagine 3,000 people playing one game. How quiet would that place be? During the game, click the clock. That's it. Oh, he sneezed. Be quiet down there. It's like the nightmare in a library sort of stuff.
This was true.
So I do a lot of that, and I love to fish. I took up fly fishing because I was catching too many fish with normal stuff. I haven't caught a thing yet. Haven't even had a bite yet. So there's a whole lifetime of learning there.
But
I'd be fully involved in lots to do.
There'd be so much in your plate, right?
And I'd be apologising to my wife for probably at least 30 years. Because she has put up with so much and sacrificed so much. It's like even in this business, it's sort of like my wife's role is to do the trust account.
Mm-hmm.
In the industry, similar to accountancy, similar to law, when we handle clients' money, it's very, very heavily audited. It's like 3 years jail if you stuff around and get it wrong. So I tell my wife that you do the trust account, you only have one role in this business, that's to keep me out of jail.
Yep.
So I do not upset my wife because she knows how to hurt me.
Yeah.
But all through the ups and downs and left hands and right hands that my life has taken, and my wife has always been supportive, and I've done some weird, crazy stuff. Throwing away, jobs when I was like in the top 10% of paid employees in the country to go open a natural medicine centre. Hello.
You did that?
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, we're worried about my logic level now, aren't you?
How did that go?
It was great in every way except making money.
Right, understood.
It was revolutionary in the industry because that was when everyone was still working from their garages at home.
Yeah.
So I took them out. I ran the first, proper medical centre with naturopaths, masseuse, acupuncturists, herbalists, the whole
All
range
of
of
them,
it.
yeah.
What you see quite often now, but mine was the first one. I broke the monopoly of supply. The area was, you can only use this supplier. I said, why?
Why? Yeah.
I said, why?
Yeah.
I said, this one's, and even the staff at that stage says, oh, we can't use someone else. This is the best. Like, you remember those Coca-Cola ads? Blind taste tests against Coke.
Yeah.
Well, remember, but they had that. I did that. Well, here's 2 samples, same one. Oh, this one's definitely stronger. Good, we're changing brands because that's a new one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's how I convinced my staff, and broke it up. When you break up a monopoly, there's consequences, I'll tell you.
Yeah. People get upset.
But it was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
it's great. And to help so many people, we had so many people who've gone through orthodox medicine and it hasn't worked. And particularly in the area where they've had lots of tablets. And there was a time when we did horrific surgeries to women. Unbelievable. That just isn't done anymore. Which is a polite way of saying, we did that wrong. Yeah. The people we helped was tremendous. I can never look back at those times and not be happy. Yeah. The staff I helped, they grew so much. Two of them went on to being international consultants. That's how much we're able to develop them to run with. Did it make me money? No, blew a whole life worth of savings because I could get access to my super in those days. So I did.
Lucky you had to. No wonder you've had so many businesses. You had to make that back.
Oh, exactly right. And this is why my wife takes care of the finances.
That's fair. That is completely fair.
That is life.
Yeah.
I remember Dick Smith is a famous Australian.
I just read his biography last week.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get the part that says he was bankrupt 7 times?
Yep.
Okay. I told my wife that. I said, look at Tricky Dicky, Dick Smith, one of the richest men in Australia or international. He's been bankrupt 7 times. My wife was reading a book. I don't know if this is on video or not. And she looks up and she says, amateur, how many times have you been bankrupt? And goes back and turns the next page in the book. I'm going like, whoa, talk about egalitarian. Don't let me get carried away here. Now, just for the record, I've never actually been bankrupt. I've been broke many times, even technically bankrupt, which means I don't have the money, but they don't know I don't have the money.
Right, and so as long as they don't know,
as long as they don't know, I got time to get it.
It's Schrodinger's money at that point, right? It doesn't exist, nor not exist until they find out.
It's managing cash flow. But these are the things that I learn. And now that I go into businesses and some businesses feel guilty with what they have. And I said, no, I get it. I know what you've had to do to get to where you are now. And, they try to explain their financials and I can say, okay, so you've got this here, this here, this here. And that's why your cash flow is low. And they just go, wow, yeah. I said, well, I need to know this so I can explain it to the buyer. Because buyers quite often, this is their first time. I've even had to explain it to accountants half the time. The amount of times I want to send them an invoice because, like I said, a decade in the tax office, I know a lot of taxes. I've seen a heck of a lot of profit and losses. And when they come up, I love the ones who say, we got a lot more money in the business because we have unreported cash. And I said, okay. And I can tell you how we know. So what do you mean how we know? Because I still talk in terms of we. Because the
tax office.
I said, well, this doesn't add to that, doesn't need that. It means that you've got cash in the business and it's about that much. And they go, I said, and you ain't fooling me. Imagine what the computers and AI are going to rip you out. We need to sell you quickly. And it's not wrong. It's about matching the business to the buyer. Let the buyer know, okay, yeah, the numbers look like this because of this reason. Or they may have had a great year and it's because of that reason. It's making deals, for want of a better word, or getting contracts to settle is all about ensuring expectations are met and expectations are understood. And that's why people don't understand, but one of the things I do differently is most of my work as a commercial realtor and business broker comes after the contract. I had a client, they rang up us about 2 weeks ago and they said, Peter, you got to help me. I thought, oh, okay, what's happened? They've already signed. The finances approved. The lawyers are yelling at each other. Now, I usually don't get involved between clients and their lawyers or clients and their advisors, be they accountants or bankers. Yes, I had to get involved in there to explain and sort things out. The work after the contract is really what makes the difference.
Really?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It is
very much learning. Oh.
Yeah, it's a very interesting space. Like, and I'm curious because we started talking about the chapters of your life. We kind of
that's right. You had a question in there, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. We got there somewhere. So
okay. So we were on the Gold Coast. Went to Brisbane. Did some of the corporate stuff. Got tired of that. Sold a lot of business. I actually had a very pivotal moment. There we go. Trendy word.
Yeah, here you go.
And I just sold my business. My father had passed away and my mother had moved away. So suddenly we didn't have anchors on the Gold Coast anymore, not like we used to. So it was never a case of we even couldn't move away from the Gold Coast even if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And the Gold Coast was just too busy for us. We moved from Burleigh to Nerang to Oxenford, smaller places each time. We had acreage at Oxenford, but no neighbours, sort of stuff. So we said, God, if you want us to move, now would actually be a reasonable good time. We didn't get an email, but the doors opened and closed accordingly, and we ended up in Bundaberg. So that was probably the final, or the current chapter, not the final chapter, the current chapter. And I've been up here 14 years now. So yeah, I'm.
And you've done a bunch of things since you've been here.
I tell people, look, I came up between the floods, and I'm still here, so I'm a local. Don't give me this garbage. You've got to be here 50 years to be a local. If you're still here after a flood, you're classed as a local. So yeah. And up here was very much the entrepreneurial Peter. Still had a couple of jobs, broke some more market shares. Broke the Ergon monopoly that they had on power up here.
Was that you?
I
saw that happen. I did not know that was you.
I just lived to upset people. So I was the first one to bring in competition to Ergon up here. We created. I was in labour hire, and my office was Bundaberg, and we got to the stage of where people were seriously starting to think that we were the best office in Australia, beating Sydney, Melbourne, all the likes of that. So we've done some tremendous stuff up here, and all because of a customer service ethos. Is what I look at. You got to try not to talk too much with people. Listen to them if you can. But it's just my staff used to come up. And they'd sit down and say, story time with Uncle Pete. And I thought, you're the only two who get away with that. And I'd sit there and feel really bad because they were right. Here comes a story on how to solve this problem, how I've had this before, what we can do, the options we can choose, how to use it with your style, what skill sets we need, how do we use timing, how do we use leverage. Life can be simple, but life can also be it's simple when you have a large range.
Yes, you got that experience that backs it for sure.
I think I always go the total opposite. They used to say Bruce Lee didn't worry about the person who practiced 10,000 kicks. He worried about the person who had one kick 10,000 times. So diversity or niche marketing. As I say, there's riches and niches. I think that's because Americans can't say niche. But it works, all right. And I've sort of done that in a way, but in a very widespread way. It's great. You got to have fun. And you go where God puts you and enjoy it. And sometimes I sit there and say, really? What am I supposed?
He's got a great sense of humor.
What should I be learning here, Lord? Because it's just not getting through.
Yes. I have genuinely had that conversation with God myself where it's like, I feel like I'm stuck here, and if it's something I'm going to learn, you really need to fill me in because, I can relate to that.
I have this understanding with God. I said, God, I'm not real good with subtle hints. So if you want me to do something, then it needs to be blatant.
Yep.
And sometimes I've had some blatant hits.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know what the answer is, but that ain't it.
Yeah.
Let's go this way.
So so obviously now you're doing commercial real estate and the business brokerage.
Yes.
That's what you're doing right now. That to me, that looks like the culmination of I have done everything that I can possibly do. So now I'm going to help everybody else do everything else. Is that kind of how that happened? What was your motivation to get into that?
You're scarily close, actually.
Yeah.
When you step back and look at my life's journey, okay, financial background in the ATO, sales and admin in the tax office, cold calling in and IT in other mixes, leadership, training and development, all that looks like a natural fit for me. So you think, oh yes, okay, this is God's plan to get there. That's the result. The actual way was, I finished my job, lost the job, finished the job, depending which way I'm going. They didn't replace me, so you tell me if it was lost my job or finished my job.
Yep.
And then I spoke with a friend and said, can you come help me with real estate? I said, don't do houses, don't 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms and a toilet. Don't do long grass, don't do dogs. Definitely don't like stepping in dog do. She says, no, I want to have a look at the commercial side. So that's how I started. And then from there branched off into my own business because that's all I wanted to do.
Yep.
And and other events and other doors opened and closed. So it's and that's probably it. If we looked at it from a God point of view, you can see the steps, and sometimes we're lucky we can see those steps come through. Other times I've got no idea what God got me doing that.
Yeah.
3 years and that job just damn near killed me. And then other times, if you're a secular thinking, you don't believe in God, let's look at the opportunity or the universe pathway. Got him through the air, right? Whatever you want to dream on, guys.
Yep. Take your pick. So you said something to me, and I haven't explored this with you. So I'm curious here. You said that you're looking to move in an international direction.
Oh yeah.
Now, okay. So
how do we do that from Bundaberg as a solopreneur? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I'm like when you said that, I'm like, you know what? There's a lot of people who could say that to me, and I would go, oh man, these people don't get it. But the fact that it's coming from you, I know you get it.
Definitely crazy.
And so I'm like, okay, he's got something that I don't know about. Yeah. So I'm going to ask that question.
All right, let's talk from a business point of view. Okay, so I started Bundaberg Commercial, and my dad was an entrepreneur. He was a chef. So we always started restaurants in motels, clubs, pubs, bistros, all that sort of stuff. And he had a saying, you need to have 6 months worth of wages behind you. And that worked in those days. Nowadays, you really need 3 years wages behind you when you start a business. It is that much harder to get businesses to work.
Oh, amen.
It is. So my first year was very much getting to understand Bundaberg and working it and building it. Like the Roman Empire's mandate was, you had to be strong in Rome before you conquered the world. So, they had Rome, Venice, Sparta. That was all well and truly within their patch, and then they expanded. So my second year, I expanded into Harvey Bay because I had a lot of leverage in there from previous businesses. I was a business consultant for 7 years. People are sitting there thinking, that makes me about 120 now. A lot of these things were done concurrently.
Overlaps. Yeah. Thankfully.
Multiple side hustles at the same time.
Yeah. People who are listening to the audio version of this are going to be like, we need to see the video version to look at his face.
And the hand gestures, makes more sense. I'm not Italian, but I use my hands a lot. So the second year was very much going into Harvey Bay. And the first year of business is always fun because it's exciting. You don't know anything better. You're stupid. You're motivated. My boss used to say, don't motivate a beginner. All you get is faster mistakes. So you're at that stage that first year. It's good. And your friends and family are behind you. So they're throwing your work and it's great. Second year's a bugger because all those easy wins are gone and you've got to really work hard to see if you've got what it takes to make the venture, no matter what it is. If you're still there at the third year is generally break-even year. And it lets you know that, okay, you have got something that has potential. And so we went through the first year, the second year, third year, I've got the the whole wide bay covered. I'm in Gladstone. Had a client in Longreach because of referrals and everything. No, it's going crazy stuff,
Yeah.
And we got to the stage. Okay, well, what's the next step? Do I open an office and have staff? That's an option. Do I open up a branch in Hervey Bay? Do I crack into the Sunshine Coast or go down? One of the things that people don't realise, and I saw it in one of the other realtors, they went from Australia and expanded to New Zealand. Yeah, lots of nice stuff there, but you want to go into Asia. There's 1 billion people in Asia, and there's 2 million in New Zealand. Hello, talk to me before you do these sort of stupid things, So I thought, okay, well, am I happy with the business as it is as a solopreneur? It's a job. It's a business. It was at that sort of size. But I really wanted to what they call 10x it. I wanted to grow it. I wanted to see how good I could make it. I wanted to help a lot of people. Right now my goal is to help 10,000 people. I've got about 2,500 help now already. Buyers and sellers all along that sort of bracket. So that's not bad for 3 years, 4 years. I think it's around about 4 years. And when you have those big decisions, you have those prayers. God, I feel that I need to change or do something. But what? Where is it?
Yeah.
And I got the feeling that it was to be international. I thought, oh, okay, well, this is interesting, Lord, because He doesn't send you the manual here and here. I want you to do this, follow this game plan. Oh, okay. Once you go international, but there's no instructions there.
Yep.
So I had to think, okay, well, what model would we use for one of a business term? And for me, and you hit on it before, it's just the sheer knowledge that I have. That is the marketable product that I have in commercial real estate. Now, I'm not going to be one of those spruikers that gets up and sets up consultancy programs. That's not it. I'm going on in different ways. Things like the YouTube channel that I've got is now starting to get outside of Australia and picking up interest, particularly in Europe and in North America. They're the two international areas I'm looking for. A lot of similarities, plus the fact that some people can actually understand Australian in those countries. They don't understand my humour, but that's another aspect. I've got a book coming out, which is in itself is a journey. No, I'll keep it here because AI is so dangerous now. If people pick up the topic, some of the evil people can easily run an AI program, run 1,000 books on the same topic, flood the market, and I've lost my opportunity. But the book will be another aspect of being international. So it'll be Australian case studies, solving problems that Australians have in buying commercial property, because a lot of those, there's about 10 chapters, 8 of those chapters will be applicable overseas as well. There's a couple of Aussie specific type ones, and that's cool. Plus my dry witty humour. Maybe they'll laugh, maybe they'll say, don't get it. So suddenly those two things are looking at going international, and we'll just see how it tailors from there. So one of the things I've always been keen when I was in Bundaberg is don't circulate your money within the economy. You don't look at just having regular local clients, because when the economy goes quiet here, like it was 3 or 4 years ago, everybody suffers. What you need to do is keep bringing money into Bundaberg. So that's part of the reason why I'm in Hervey Bay. I make money there and I bring it back into Bundaberg. Now that's why we are looking now at international. We will get money from overseas and bring it into Bundaberg, build our economy, help our people, employ more subcontractors in my case, develop more goods and more services that we can promote and market, build it big in Bundaberg. We don't need to go down south. We don't need to fiver it to the subcontinent. We can run it through there. So that's like, how long's it been going? Probably 14 months. The book will be out. It'll be launched in August. So that should be the
that'll be exciting.
Ask me in a year. Come back in here.
See, find out then.
P.S. Peter is sad and miserable. Oh, we can't get him. He's playing chess in Lisbon. It worked for him or it didn't work for him. But life is usually in the middle. It's not as bad as we think it's going to be, and it's not as great as we hope it will be. But if you can manage the middle and be happy and successful and help others, and you just got to keep that customer focused. My YouTube channel is all about helping people and answering questions. My book is all about helping people who are looking to buy businesses or buy properties and haven't been able to do so.
Yeah.
Just keep helping people.
You've
And
got that.
occasionally someone's got money and actually throws it to you. Like, cool, oh, wow,
That's
keep
great.
going.
But that is something that I feel is very unique to your brand. It's the Peter brand of just help people. Like that was my experience with you, because I landed in Bundaberg. I really didn't. I mean, I had connections because I've had family that lived here, but I had no knowledge of the local community. And you said to me, look, after talking to you, these are the people you need to talk to, right? This is where you need to be. And
sounds like something I'd say.
Yeah.
Delegate it out. I don't want to do it. I'm a leader.
But literally, I think I'll say like 6 to 8 months in the 6 to 8 months after we had a cuppa together, that conversation led to probably close to $15,000 worth of work.
I should have got a commission. But that's great.
But that's it, right? But that was because and full transparency, I like being authentic. That was probably at one of the most difficult financial times in my life, and that was like really transformative for us to get a start here in Bundaberg.
I love happy stories.
Yeah.
And you need to look back at and we talked about the Natural Medicine Centre.
Yeah.
I look back at the people I helped. And we talk about customer service, and I'm a real estate agent. We are not known for customer service.
No.
And when I told Ali, I said, I'm going to start my own agency, beautiful wife put her hands on her hips. Very beautiful wife. And she says, you'll be rated number 2 only behind used car salespeople. And I said, yes, but imagine if we provided good service and professionalism, what we could do. Now, I've yet to see a real estate agent with a business card that says, I give lousy service. Everybody says they give good service.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what business, what industry.
Of course they're going to say that.
When you're looking for a strategic advantage, you need something that isn't easily replicated. So you'd think that customer service couldn't be a strategic advantage. You wouldn't think that that would be difficult to replicate. But just things like answering the phone, answering the emails, being on time, and doing your appointments and doing that regularly is a cultural shift for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So their manager may come in and say, oh, I heard Peter and Luke's podcast and we're going to provide service. In 2 days' time, they'll be over that.
Yeah.
Because they can't change the horse.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, people are associating good service with Bundaberg Commercial or the brand of Peter Bender, as you say. And that's tremendous, because that is my protection in my marketplace, in my business. That is my strategic advantage.
Yeah.
And in the creative side, you'll see it quite often. People will copy you. And I say that's the greatest form of flattery.
Yeah.
But the other thing, actually, I didn't say that. Someone else did, but I like it.
It's a quote. Yep.
It's a quote, yeah. But what I know is if you're copying me, then you're still behind me.
Yeah.
And that's the most powerful thing.
Yeah.
So if they're copying the things I do, I've seen them. I've had clients who haven't worked out, so they've gone and picked another agent up, and that's fine. We're happy with it, because commercial is a long journey. The last settlement I had was 3 days short of 3 years. That's how long that journey was. Not everyone can hang in there, so sometimes I do lose a client. And they went to another agent who just copied my photos, copied my text, and put the ad up. It was exactly the same ad. It's like all they did is put their mug shot instead of mine. And I thought, if that's the best that you can do, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
And trust me, about 2 weeks later, that customer was not happy with that agent because they weren't returning calls, they weren't doing emails.
Yeah, that's it.
So customer service can be a strategic advantage to driving your business.
Yeah.
Which is really good, because I'm useless with technical stuff, so I've got to be able to do something softer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, just as we're kind of wrapping up, if people are hearing this and they're like, oh, I have a business, or I need to sell something, where can they find you?
Oh, scary stuff. Do I want to hear from you, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's imagine they're really good customers.
BundabergCommercialRealty.com.au is the website. It's got my listings plus a lot of sales stuff on there. So for those who are looking for market intelligence, that's a good one. Drop me an email. I send out a monthly newsletter.
Which is great, by the way. There's like 2 monthly newsletters that I subscribe to that I actually read.
Okay.
And that's one of them. So.
That's good, yeah. Well, once again, it's about giving information to people. These are the questions that people are asking. You know? I usually have what's called Peter's Prattle, which is just explaining what's happening in the region, the territory. And then we have listings and sales, so people know what's happening. Is it quiet, busy, picking up or not? And then I'll have like a deeper item of interest. And not everyone reads those, but sometimes they do. This time I think it was on the office space coming back back into vogue. So there's a story item in that one, so that was good. So yeah, emails are good. YouTube channel. I really struggle with even working out how to advertise it. I think it's actually Peter Bender or Bundaberg Commercial Reality. Bundaberg Commercial Realty. Don't put Bundaberg Commercial because you get all the ads with a polar bear in there. And I can't get enough users on there. Bundaberg Rum just has it everywhere. Let's type in Bundaberg Commercial. You get all the Bundaberg Rum ads. They're great. I love watching them, but you don't get me.
Yep.
But Bundaberg Commercial Realty will get me through there. Or my phone number if you must.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sure in the description wherever people are listening to this, we will have a link there. They can find you. So no worries. Peter, thank you so much for being our very first guest. Oh, look, I really love it. I think it's a great idea. It's one of those creative flares that you're known for. I hope it is successful. And I hope people start to realise just, how wonderful Bundaberg is, including its people. They're all skilled in all different areas. Let's run with it. We might have to have you on for a part 2 sometime.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm always happy to talk, mate. There's plenty of stories in there.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
But you'll have to manage my journey through the talk. But
we can manage.
If you cut most of this out on the cutting floor, I'm not going to be too upset. You can probably do one for outtakes.
That could be fun.
The stuff that didn't make the first cut.
This is what wasn't there. That's right. So, and to be fair, people probably are going to prefer to watch that than what. Yeah,
people
that's
love
a people
to be
thing.
Entertained as well as educated. So
yes.
Yeah, get entertained. So,
thank you.
Awesome, bud.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
If it's a podcast, we're shaking hands.
Yes, just so you guys can tell. So, thank you. All right, we'll leave it there and hope you guys come back for the next episode.
And take care and God bless.